like fail fast. Like we're not opposed to fail. We're not going to get it right every time. That's really important for a culture to be able to challenge ideas and know that we as humans are not going to get it right every time. And so it's okay to fail, come together, debrief, what could we have done differently? What could we have done better? And then iterate and pivot as quickly as possible.
Welcome back to the CultureCon podcast. I'm Nick.
And I'm Zach. We're the co-founders of CultureCon and your host for the show.
This episode is part of a special series we created live on site in our podcast studio at CultureCon 2025 in Madison, Wisconsin.
To capture these conversations, we partnered with our friends at People Forward Network, our podcast media partner. A huge thank you to Nikki Llewellyn-Gregory, who stepped in as host for these live studio sessions.
These episodes feature real-time insights, stories, and leadership lessons shared during the conference, giving you a front row seat to the energy and impact of CultureCon.
And we're excited to bring you along. Let's dive into today's conversation.
Hey, it's Nikki Llewellyn-Gregory back here at CultureCon Live in Madison, Wisconsin for the 2025 conference, the thing that started it all. And I am so excited to dive into another topic, one that we haven't touched much on today, but I'm sure we'll find some themes from other episodes that will tie in today with Megan. Megan Berki is with Rocket Lawyer, and she's actually one of the keynote speakers here at CultureCon this year. And really, we're going to go deep in some of the things she's going to talk about in her keynote and dig even beyond that around generations in the workforce today. And I think your passion is around leading the charge and others to understand how to bridge the gaps among those generations. And everything is changing so fast, right? We've been talking about that all day in the studio with so many new technologies and what we're doing. And then different generations have different needs. So we need to learn from you.
Yeah.
So how did this topic become the topic that you speak on and that you're passionate about?
Yeah. Well, you know, we're who we are is shaped by so many different things. How we were raised, economic backgrounds, technology backgrounds, and for the first time ever in modern history, we have 5 generations all working together. Traditionalists and baby boomers and Gen X and millennials and Gen Zs. And for the most part, there's a lot of commonality around what as human beings we want, but how we're achieved, how those things are achieved, how we engage with our employers and the mission that we're looking for in our work, all of those things are really sort of what I'm passionate about. How does it all come together and they all have to work together and we all have to learn from each other.
Yeah. Well, I love that you gave us a little education on, like, for the first time ever, we have 5 generations in the workplace. Let's do a little bit more of that, like knowledge sharing before we go into some of the best practices and how-tos or whatever. You know, talk about some of the common misconceptions and, you know, some of the trends that are happening right now, anything that'll help us, like, from our mindset to come into this, just kind of level setting.
Yeah. I mean, I think some of the things that I think will resonate with people are a lot of times I hear millennials and Gen Zs sort of grouped together, but there are distinctions. For example, millennials are what they call tech savvy. So meaning we grew up in an age where technology evolved, right? Like I'm right on the cusp of millennial and Gen Z. And so we grew up with it, pager, but it looked very different. The Gen Zs are technology native. They know nothing different. They grew up with touch screens and TikTok and all of those things. And so, like, one funny example is, like, if you're trying to learn how to do something, oftentimes millennials will Google how to do it versus Gen Zs that will watch a TikTok video. And so it's just, again, it's like the approach that they take around technology and learning and engaging is very different. I also think that similarly, so millennials are very mission driven. They're very attached to, like, the work they're doing and leaving the world better than they found it, all of those things. Gen Zs are more proactive, more assertive. So millennials might ask why something happens, whereas a Gen Z may be more critical around, like, that's not how it should be done, or they're more vocal about the way they believe the world should operate, or an employer should operate, or the culture should be. And so those are some of the differences that you'll see in the various generations. And so from an employer perspective or a culture perspective, when you're designing programs or creating working environments for people, you really have to touch on and channel all of those different motivations, styles, communication, all of those things.
Okay, so take us into Rocket Lawyer and help us understand some of the initiatives that you've tried, maybe failed forward, maybe they were super successful, but let's hear some of the initiatives, particularly around like culture initiatives. I think we had talked on our prep call about like how to keep the shared values among different types of people.
Yeah.
So I'm going to play color with you. I'd love to learn about
I love
something.
that. The cool thing about Rocket Lawyer, and one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about our organization, is that it, more than any other organization, we have a very strong population of baby boomers and Gen Xers and millennials and Gen Zs. And so when you go to the baby boomers and the Gen Xers, these are individuals who have dedicated their life's work to what Rocket Lawyer does, making the law affordable and simple for the average person. And so at the core, that's who we are and what really brings us all together. I was telling you how I've been with the organization for 6 years and it looks so different. And even in the last, 12 to 18 months, the introduction of AI. And so when we talk about our population and learning from each other, and the baby boomers and the Gen Xers learning from the Gen Zs, there's no better example than the AI technology, because that particular team in our organization is mostly early recent grads, people who have educated themselves in AI, because that's sort of the ones that are really the driving force behind developing that technology. And so from a program perspective and sort of how Rocket Lawyer brings us all together is first and foremost the mission. Again, like this is many people's life's work. I also think there's different approaches and channels that we take to how we communicate. So when you think about the sort of Gen Zs and millennials, we use Slack a lot, and we do employee engagement through technology and rewards and recognition. We also get feedback on the various causes that we really want to engage with our employees on, like what causes matter to them. And those are different by generation. When you think about performance management and giving feedback, different individuals hear and receive feedback in different ways. And so we provide different opportunities through leadership coaching and manager development and training, and really elevating managers' skills in responding to different employees, different ways of doing that. In terms of our goal setting process, so making sure that our goals are fair and equitable across the organization, and that everyone really feels like they're set up for success. Our rewards and recognition, so making sure that our rewards and recognition are really set up in such a way that we're being fair and equitable. I mean, pay transparency and all of those things are only becoming more relevant and prevalent in the world. And so making sure that we're designing programs that are achieving all of those, ticking all those boxes.
So I'm curious, examples of some of these initiatives where maybe before you rolled them out or changed them, what was the friction that was happening? And then how did you bridge it? Like to help people all come together around this, but it's catering to very different types of people. Yeah. Maybe a couple examples there.
Well, like I said, when I started 6 years ago, I mean, a lot of what we did was in spreadsheets, even goal management and success factors for employees were all spreadsheets. And to what we just talked about, for maybe the boomers and the Gen Xers, that was okay. They were very comfortable in a spreadsheet and managing performance and managing, everything just in a very analog way. But if you want to scale, if you want to resonate with employees that are more drawn to technology, which is the Gen Xers and the Gen Zs, you really need to bring it online and introduce technology. And so I think you asked about like what failed or what did we try that failed? I mean, the technology you introduce has to resonate with your workforce. And so I'll be honest, we did try a couple of different platforms that really didn't work. There was a lack of adoption. It got very confusing. I think one of the things that what we had when I first started was OKRs. And I think what we learned was trying to tie everything together, and this ties to this and this ties to this, I think created confusion. We weren't ready for it. And so we didn't get the adoption that we wanted. And so we discontinued it. We said, we're not going to do that. And what we transitioned to that I think worked better for us is Confluence. And one of the learnings was that we have an organization that's in Confluence all day long, Confluence pages, all those things. And so introducing technology that the organization is already comfortable with, that people will engage with, was a huge factor for us. But it also required a learning curve for those who were just used to the analog and doing it in a spreadsheet. And so that's maybe an example of like a tool that had less adoption. It was standalone. There was no connection to the work that they were doing. It was totally sidebar. It was almost like, I'm going to put these in and then I'm never going to look at it again for 6 months. Mm-hmm. Whereas introducing technology that's native to the organization, that's embedded in the work they're doing every day, and across all 4 or 5 generations, everybody across the organization is working in those tools. And so I think that was why that's become more effective for us.
Thank you for sharing. You had talked about communication earlier. What have you learned about how to communicate in a way that reaches each type of audience? I'm so curious because I come from like a marketing mind, and you have different segments, when we're talking to this industry, and I'm curious, like, how does that apply with what you've learned about how to talk to these different segments of people that all ties towards the same outcome?
Yeah.
Right? How do you do that?
There's a couple things that come to mind. One is predictability. People want, my opinion and my experience, employees want a predictable cadence of communication. They don't want to have to necessarily go seek out information. They want to feel like they're engaged with the work they're doing. So I think predictability is super important. And I think there's different mechanisms for communication. So there's verbal communication through regular company meetings. That's super important to our culture, where there's a regular predictable cadence where you're going to receive company updates. You're going to have an opportunity to interface with leadership. You're going to have the opportunity to ask questions. And in those forums, even the framework and the setting of that is important for, we believe in transparency and, challenging of ideas. And so we're not opposed to that in those meetings. And so we open it up, and that's one forum. There's another opportunity where through writing, right? Like some people retain information through reading. And so we've developed a company newsletter that goes out, I think every other month, and regular communication through email and Slack. Slack has been a pretty significant game changer because it's more collaborative also. You can send out communication, and then you can also ask for like responses, surveys, etc. And then I think there's also like teach them to fish kind of thing. So creating material that people, when they need it, can go and seek it out for themselves, people who are self-learners. And then lastly, I would say continuing to develop not even just managers and leaders, but employees on how to communicate effectively. Up, down, sideways, like how do you effectively communicate ideas, challenge ideas, provide feedback. I think that's an ongoing skill that we try to elevate in the organization.
Yeah.
We want to give a quick thank you to our friends at Culture Shape. They're really helping people and culture leaders design and deliver higher impact programs through a single source.
Yeah, and one of the things I love is their culture wheel. It's a 12-month visual calendar that makes it easier to plan, organize, and communicate culture programs across the whole organization. It's a simple way to get stronger buy-in and support.
And right now we got a really cool promotion for our CultureCon podcast listeners. You can get 50% off a one-on-one 4-week online consulting program with Pete Savage, Culture Shape's CEO. These spots are limited, so if you're interested, head to cultureshape.co/CultureCon to grab your place.
I think the thing that I'm hearing that's really important is the use of various channels and various methods.
Correct.
Like we can't, oh, hey, I think we're going to boil all this together and use this way that kind of pulls in. There's no matter who we are as humans,
Correct.
right? We don't all fall into like,
Yeah.
oh, I am this stereotype. There are some trends and,
Yeah.
normalcy in those, but all of us have different needs.
That's right.
And how do we take the needs of our people and have various ways?
That's right.
Right. And you
That's
have to
right.
figure out your own recipe.
That's right.
I'm curious how this applies going back to collaboration. You said Slack's really been a game changer for collaboration. What have you learned on how do we best get the different types of people, all these different humans to collaborate? You mentioned Slack. What else?
I think I was mentioning to you before we started that there's a couple different areas where we have kind of hybrid approaches. We have physical offices, and then there's other areas that are 100% remote. For the physical offices, part of the collaboration has been, while we're not in the office every day, there are very strategic opportunities to bring people together in person, to connect, to collaborate, to work together. The company meetings is one example. Also strategic working sessions with some of our engineers, things like that. One of our values as a company is celebrate. And so we also are very intentional about coming together physically, remotely to celebrate who we are and the wins that we have. I think that's been really important. And then other tooling. I think technology has played a huge role. Like I said, Confluence, and they're continuing to evolve their products and allow for more live interaction and things like that. Those are probably, I would say, like technology and then finding strategic opportunities to come together, both for collaboration and celebration, has been pretty important for us.
That's so good. And, there's been a theme in the studio around the values of our company being the thing that like gathers us.
Yes.
It's our nucleus.
Yes.
Do you have any other examples? You mentioned celebrate, but any other ways that, values are living out and it really does bring all the people together?
Yeah. Well, our first one, which I think I've touched on a couple times, is that we're a team on a mission. And so our mission is, as I mentioned, to make the law affordable and simple. And so candidates I speak with, employees who I speak with, they absolutely believe in the mission that we're trying to drive. And many people join Rocket Lawyer for that reason, myself included. So I think that's a really big one. I also think communication. So we communicate as if lives depend on it. And that's in all different channels, as we talked about. And then there's a couple of other ones that I always like to touch on, which is debate, decide, and deliver. So that means we're open to debate and challenging of ideas and collaborating, and then we make the decision and we execute and hope, you may need to iterate, or if there's failure. So that's one. And then like fail fast. Like we're not opposed to fail. We're not going to get it right every time, but certainly making sure that you're able to fail fast. And, even this morning during the keynote speaker, she was talking about how psychological safety and all of those things. And I think that that's really important for a culture to be able to challenge ideas and know that we as humans are not going to get it right every time. And so it's okay to fail, come together, debrief, what could we have done differently? What could we have done better? And then iterate and pivot as quickly as possible. And I think that that's really sort of ingrained into who we are.
Yeah. Yeah. And just like thinking about the last one that you shared there around failing forward, there's so many different ways to do that. Someone may say, hey, I'd love to debrief on a quick one-on-one chat and a huddle on Slack. And that's the way they do it, versus somebody else wants to set up a meeting in the office on one of the days that we're going to be there live, right? That kind of caters to two different types of people or a group of people meeting in the middle on how they do that together.
Yeah.
There's somebody else that they're, the jam for the group or the two is asynchronously. I'm going to create this doc and we're going to, but the core is we believe in failing forward. And that means we have this experience and then we're going to break it down and learn from it.
Yeah.
And no matter what, as a human, like you figure out the way that works for you. And
absolutely.
Yeah. So
and I guess from the generational side of it, some of the things that you can point to is sort of the boomers and the Gen Xers are sort of hierarchical. And so to your point, like that group of employees may feel like they need to go through a particular channel of leadership to address failure or to address a concern and something like that. Whereas millennials and Gen Zs feel more confident and comfortable just saying it the way it is. Like, this is like, we failed. Here's why. I didn't think this went well. Here's why. And so that's when you speak like sort of the generational component to it, those approaches are very different. One is very hierarchical. The other is like, I'm just going to say how it is.
Yeah. So as we come to a close,
Yeah.
I know this is a topic you're really passionate
Yeah.
about. I mean, you're taking the stage here. There's not a lot of keynotes. You're the one that's chosen for this topic around, bridging the gap on bringing all the different people that work together.
Yeah.
What's the thing or things like that you're trying to fight against? You're like, as a people leader professional, an
Yeah.
HR leader, whatever, if you're still thinking this way, I want to challenge you. Let's break that.
Yeah.
Like, let's end with a couple of those or one of those like challenges from Megan.
Yeah. I think being in the human business is a challenge in general. And the reason I think this is an important topic is because as humans, everyone wants to succeed and everyone wants to feel like what they do matters. How that gets done and how all of the components that go along with that are different for different people, whether it's how it's communicated or how they get their work done or whether they're tech forward or not. There's just how it's done is the challenge. And so I think I would like to challenge employers and organizations and myself to create environments and cultures where everyone feels like they've got a framework and a foundation for success. And the end goal being, I feel good about my work and I know what I'm doing matters.
I love that. So good. And just thinking about tactical implementation earlier, one of the speakers like challenged us with jot down that one thing that you can go do to move the needle on, whatever we're working on.
Mm-hmm.
What is, a tactical step that you could confidently say, I mean, if you did this, it's going to help with that.
Yeah.
Whether they're doing it now and just need a refresher, maybe they've not done it yet.
Yeah.
What is that tactical action item?
Yeah. I think communication and just talking. There's so much information and so much you can do with data. But you don't know, if you don't know how employees are feeling or what what's resonating with them, you can create programs and frameworks out of the ether. But if it's not resonating with employees and with your organization, then you're missing the mark. And so I would say the one thing that we can do is have dialogue, communicate, even if the communication is, I don't like what we do here, or I don't like how we engage in conflict here. Like, I feel like we could have more healthy conflict, things like that. I think what's really important is asking the question. And the second most important thing is being transparent and then taking action on what you hear. Because the worst thing you can do is ask a question and then not respond to it. That would be what I would say, is just have the dialogue.
I want to give you a big round of applause for that. So good. So good. Yeah. So much power in taking time to ask the important questions and to listen, and maybe have tools that allow you to get more feedback in scalable ways. But we need to know our people.
Yes.
There's no two workplaces that are the same because they're all different humans, right?
Yes.
It's a regular topic that I share on different podcasts is there's no neighbor company that won an award for culture that you can walk over and be like, can I get that?
That's right.
And go do that. You just can't, right?
That's right.
You have to figure it out. And going to your point of your golden advice is take time, ask the question, spend time and listen. Don't just do it once. Do it regularly.
Right.
And take action.
Yes.
So good.
Yes.
How can our listeners connect with you after today or anything that we wanted to share from Rocket Lawyer?
Yeah, so you can certainly reach out to me on LinkedIn, also rocketlawyer.com. You're welcome to go there. For those of you who I know this is a conference for HR professionals. We also, one of the cool things in the spirit of mission is we also have an enterprise product where we believe as part of culture and employee health that we have Rocket Lawyer as a legal benefit. And so if you're interested in providing legal health and legal benefit to your employees, you're welcome to reach out to me on that as well. We'd love to help.
Awesome.
And thank you for having me. This was
Thank
awesome.
you so much, Megan.
That's a wrap on this episode of the official CultureCon podcast.
If you got something out of it, share it with a friend, a teammate, or a fellow culture geek.
And don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode.
And if you want more ways to stay connected and inspired, check out our upcoming events page for a full listing of webinars, workshops, and conferences.
You'll find the link in the show notes, and we'd love to welcome you to a CultureCon event soon.
Until next time,